All right, everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. Better turn my monitor down. How you doing? This is Broke Boy Crypto, BBC. I have with me, as always, my co-host, Crypto Ewok. We have got a lot to talk about tonight. First off, apologies. We skipped last week, had a lot going on. We are real people, but there is so much to talk about tonight, I think. Even though we're still in the midst of this bear market, I think we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So, Ewok, first off, how you doing? How you feeling about the markets? How are things going with you?
Going well, feeling good. Just getting over a cold. One of the reasons I couldn't do it Wednesday.
Right.
Not feeling well. Finally getting back to normal. Markets are still there. Not doing much. Nice and steady, straight across, and kind of choppy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not a lot going on. I mean, really not a lot going on with prices recently. I saw a tweet the other day. I forget who it was, but like basically for the last almost 2 months, we've been trading for the Bitcoin price all within about a 2% range. So, I mean, anybody who's been around the crypto game for a long time knows that is, nowhere near the amount of volatility we typically see. And I think most people just kind of feel like we are waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's of course we have since I think June. I mean, June was the first shoe, and now
Right.
the last few weeks and few months with the rate hikes, all the semi-negative CPI news and stuff like that. We're just really waiting for the other shoe to drop. So we've got all the elections coming up here in a couple of weeks in the U.S. On November 1st and 2nd, we have the next round of FOMC meetings where we figure to get another probably 75-point rate hike on November the 2nd. We will see how that goes, despite other countries kind of, I don't want to say threatening, but not pleading for our country to not do that. But
Yep.
yeah, Ewok. Well, I guess before we really get into this, I want to say that we are streaming this on both of our channels finally tonight. We've got it on Crypto Ewok's channel. We've got it on my own, Broke Boy Crypto. So pop in the chat. Let us know if you guys have any questions or anything. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Broke BOI Crypto. And Ewok, if you want to give out your stuff as well, and then kind of give me your impression about us just trading within this very small tunnel lately.
Yeah, all my channels are Crypto Ewok and YouTube and Twitter. So hit me up there, like, subscribe to the channel. I think what I've seen, I saw a bunch of people that had shorts placed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a nice little candle to liquidate those folks before it does continue to get down. So that means a substantial pump probably before it continues back down further, because I think the shorts are starting to add up. There's a lot of sentiment across the space that everybody knows or thinks that we're going down.
Right.
So, they're doing the normal thing that, well, we think it's going to go down. We don't think it's going to go up much further. So let's place a short here and, try and multiply and leverage our money. You know how that works out usually.
Right.
Leverage. What was it? Liquor ladies and leverage.
Yeah, something like that.
So,
The 3 L's. But yeah, I think you're pretty much right on that. And I'm just wondering, because we really haven't had, we've really never had this kind of crazy macro environment when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto. You know what I mean?
Right.
Since 2008, there really hasn't been this kind of environment, and sometimes we forget like that we did shut the country down a couple of years ago, and just kind of reaping what you sow now with all of that, and finding out what that really does and how harmful that really was. And yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. So I know long term, we'll be frank, neither one of us really care long term about what the next rate hike is going to be on the next FOMC meeting. They are set to meet November 1st and 2nd. So that is coming up. That's what I think is at Tuesday or Monday and Tuesday in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a half. I think 50.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're going to take the UN suggestion into consideration a little bit. I don't think they'll go the full 75. I think we'll see 50 though. Hopefully, we'll see.
Mhm.
Completely wrong, and they may go full point. I don't know.
Well, that would certainly, I think, be received short term really bullish by the market because I think most people have been thinking 75 since we got 75 the last round, and they've just been predicting this. Um, but I still, again, like I just said, you and I, longer mid to termish, I guess, after that, you and I both are still pretty, we're obviously still in a bear trend. I think we're going to be
Oh
in it
yeah,
still for a little while. And I think there will even be still, we've been saying it all year. Well, we still have a couple of months left. We have 2.5 months left. I think we're going to see even juicier prices to buy whatever your favorite asset may be here over the last
I,
couple months. So
I agree completely. And I don't know, have the idiots in charge of the country, have they decided to call this a recession yet? I don't even know if they've
I don't think you're going to have to
given
pry that out of
in.
their cold, dead hands. I don't think
Yeah,
that was ever going to happen. Yeah.
I don't think they've given in to the fact that this is a recession. Let's change the definition all you want, but things
Mhm.
are not good. So
Yeah. I think if anything, it would be after they, I mean, it seems pretty probable that the red wave, if you will, is coming here in these U.S. elections. It seems like we are going to have a lot of Republican victories all around. So who knows? Maybe they seed it after that. I mean, either way, whether the Democrats won or not, I think that they would, after the elections, that's when they would save the more honest rhetoric,
yeah,
if there is any to be had.
yeah.
So. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I definitely agree with you that we're still going to have some more downside. But what does that really look like? I mean, nobody can say for sure. And I know a lot of people, you have been quoted many a time as saying you think maybe we get like just below 11K, which I got to tell you, to me, that would definitely signal like the mass capitulation. I think if we went down that low, for as many people that have left the market already, like
Hmm.
crypto is really not popular right now. The people are just not talking about it. Everybody's down. It's a scam again and all that stuff. But I think going down to that level would really start to chase out anyone who's not very, very serious about this.
Well, I mean, it has to. We got to get all the people
Yeah.
saying Bitcoin's going to zero again. You got to get the NFTs pretty much worthless. You've got to get the discount off of Grayscale. There's a lot of things that need to flip in order for us to actually truly bottom. So
Yeah. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say so. We are trading just over 19K at the time of this. We're recording this streaming live right now, Wednesday night, October the 19th, 8:07 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, Bitcoin at 9.1 roughly, ETH at 1283. And as we're recording right now, a lot of alts are actually bleeding pretty good. It started just a little bit before we went on air here. So um, kind of interesting. I don't think this is like the start of this big final leg down or anything necessarily, but we're going to have this every now and then. And I tell you, the first time we revisit the previous lows of this bear market of around 17 and a half, which was back in June, if we get there, I don't want to keep acting like it's a guarantee, but if we do, man, that's when I think we're going to see real panic come back because, and not only that, the minute we start to go below that, I mean, people will be screaming, look out below.
yeah,
It's going to be crazy.
but that's what it took the last cycle too. I mean,
Mhm.
it really had to. I think it got down to about 6,000, and people were really panicking. And then when it dropped to 3,500, whatever it was, it,
Mhm.
it it was the end of the world. Like I said, all the people were screaming, "It's going to zero," and that's really what you need for that pure capitulation to happen. Get it
Right.
turned around and start headed back the other way.
Yeah, yeah, and those of us who are actually in this long term, and if you are watching or listening to this, you certainly are. If you're here right now, you're obviously somebody who takes this market very seriously, and you're the people who aren't planning on leaving or anything, and you want that mass capitulation. You know what I mean? Like you almost
Yeah.
at this point, like we're already this far down. Just another leg down like that really wouldn't impact many people's psyche very much at this point, and that's really all you can play with, because you're not selling at this point. You're not, if you're already underwater, I highly doubt you're going to be selling at any point now. So really all it is now is kind of psychological damage control, right?
Well, think about it though. In order to get to that level, somebody's got to be selling, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now that doesn't take a whole lot, I think. If there are still longs that have not been liquidated, once it gets to a certain level, you're going to see the cascading effect of the liquidations from previous longs. But it's got to take people selling and getting out that haven't yet to truly panic for that to happen. So
right, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating next couple of weeks. Yeah, because this has really been the time frame. I mean, most of this year we have been saying that we thought November would be kind of the beginning of the end of this thing, that we would really be hitting our final bottom around that time. And it seems to be shaping up that way. I mean, all signs are pointing to that. You look at, again, some of the macro events. I really think the elections in the US are going to be a big deal, because, again, after that, you can kind of rip the Band-Aid off if you're the people in power. It's just kind of like, well, we won or we lost or whatever it is. We don't have anything to worry about for a couple of years. So, let's be a little bit more honest for a minute,
Let's start printing more money.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Which for crypto purposes we kind of like. So
for sure.
It's going to be interesting. So we will obviously. There's just flat out not a lot to talk about with that, and I do find it interesting. I don't know about you, Ewok, but like when I'm listening to like some other content here and there, I kind of get sick of just even hearing about the macro stuff, because it's all so negative and it's always so much of the same thing that it's like, how much can we just keep talking about the same thing over and over again? Like,
right. Yeah. We've all become people who talk about macro now that, that never used to be a topic when
right.
During a bull market, there's way too much other fun stuff going on. And now you've got this and
right.
But it really is shaping what's about to happen. I mean, you can't not talk about it either.
No, and I agree. And yeah, it's funny. Yeah, like just how the crypto market seems to be tied to the actions of Jerome Powell, and just all these things going on. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. And it's a good segue, because we're talking about how there's a lot of people out there struggling for things to talk about. Bear markets obviously lead to kind of infighting and people just being angry generally and stuff like that. Let's be frank. I mean, most people have just been kind of angry the last few years. That's just kind of where things are right now, or so you would believe. So you would think by looking online. But I want to talk a little bit about this tonight, and maybe we don't need to get to it this quickly. But again, there's not much else to get to. So a couple of weeks ago, when we last had our podcast, we kind of did a full blown Zen, the new crypto from Jack Levin, the 21st Google employee, apparently. DeFi got a lot of comparisons to Hex, which obviously Hex we talk about a lot on this podcast as well. And, since that has launched, I think that Ewok, maybe your kind of initial, I'll say this, but when we first talked about this, you were like literally hearing about it really for the first time. I mean, you knew of it, but we were really breaking it down in detail, I think, for the first time at that time. And I want to get a little bit. Oh, I think I lost Ewok. You still there? He is not. So I'm going to fly solo for a minute. So basically on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, we introduced Zen for the first time. And again, the new project from Jack Levin. I've covered it a lot on my channel, obviously, as well. I made a couple of videos on it so far. And a couple of weeks ago, I was really introducing Ewok to it for the first time. And make sure I'm still live. Yeah, I am. Okay. So it was kind of his first foray into it and learning what it was all about and everything. And we've seen some really interesting stuff since that conversation. Not only with the way that Zen is looked at by people, it's kind of gone viral since then. I mean, I happened to I purely just made a couple of videos on it because I was interested in it and wanted to see what it was all about. And they were my two by far, most viewed videos that I've made on the channel so far. And just trying to get Ewok back on here. Okay, winging it for now. LOL. But it's gone viral since then. And there's been, it's one of those things, it's so much like, and I don't mean that the project and the way the contract works and everything is exactly like Hex, but it is as controversial, I guess, as Hex has been, and not because Jack Levin is similar to Richard Hart or anything. Actually, I think they're polar opposites, which is what makes this pretty interesting to me. But I think just because this time around, I think it's because, well, it's a free airdrop and you just pay the gas fee, obviously, to get it, which people are obviously going to like. There's a lot of free in crypto, which is a cool thing. Although some people would argue that it's not really free. But I think part of the reason for the viral nature of this is, and I want Ewok back on for this question because he has been within Hex and a self-proclaimed Hexican for some time. But it seems to me, anyway, just as an honest assessment for myself, that there are people that have been in Hex since the beginning, really enjoy Hex, and I don't blame them. I like Hex. I own Hex. That are threatened, I think, by Zen. And otherwise, I don't think all the content and the anti-Zen content that's kind of going on everywhere, not everywhere, but in a lot of places within the Hex community would be happening. If you look at it and you arrive to, a natural decision based on the setup of Zen and how the contract works, that you think it's not worth something getting into. If it were me, I just would not really even be acknowledging it. You know what I mean? Like not only that, but if you are somebody who has been in Hex for as long as some of these people have been and have had the gains from Hex and believe so much in Hex, I'm not even sure why you would even be mentioning it, or let alone dedicating video after video and tweet after tweet to it. If you're so against it, it smells like fear, frankly. Like that's what I get whenever I hear that stuff. I personally don't feel that because I like to stay open-minded about these things, and I'm, involved in both. And yeah, I minted a little bit of Zen on day one back on, I think it was October the 8th. And it's going to be interesting. One thing that I think seems clear is I don't believe that a lot of the people that are criticizing it do understand how quickly the inflation rate will decrease over time and how hard it will be to actually mint Zen by the end. And I think that you could give me any counterpoint possible, but something that I was texting with Ewok earlier today talking about this, something that is interesting and is always true in crypto, no matter how much you think that people are going to not like something, or how much you think something might be stupid, for example, like these meme coins. You look at Dogecoin, you look at Shiba Inu, whatever. If people want it and people buy it, then there's going to be a market for it. That's just kind of the way it is. Now, I don't think Zen is that useless that it has to rely just on some, groupies of Jack Levin or something like that. I think that there is merit to the contract. You may not. I mean, go ahead and check it out for yourself. Again, I did a video on it that's about 34 minutes long that really just goes over that Zen.io website. But yeah, if people want something, it is going to go up in value. That's just kind of the way it is. Now, there, again, are other things within the Zen contract that may make it really plunge in the short term. I think that will probably happen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just, I am not, I don't like it when people speak in super rooted definitives because none of us truly do know the future. And that's when I think a lot of people lose, no matter what it is that they're talking about, So yeah, let me see what's up with Ewok here. Just trying to get back. Anyway. Yes. So it's interesting to me. And, I have more content coming out about it too. Just kind of the, again, like we were just talking about, because there isn't tons of things within the crypto world to talk about right now. I think it's interesting, just the psychological, kind of the case studies that you see when a new project like this does launch, that some people are all in on, and some people fear and hate and are, and they're both making content continuously about it. I just think it's an interesting case study just to see how people act when stuff like this happens. But again, this is why I think it's valuable to look at things through a non-biased prism, study them, make sure you understand them, and then not be so tied down to a certain product or project or whatever it may be investment wise that you're sweating your bags all the time. If you own them all, you won't necessarily have as many issues. So that's my stance on it. I definitely want to get Ewoks as he tries to get back on here as somebody who's been in Hex for a long time. There's a lot of, again, there's a lot of Hex people that are really hating on it constantly. I'm not going to name any names or anything. And can you hear me? You back?
I'm back.
All right. So, a Herculean effort, I think, by myself there.
Good job. Sorry to leave you hanging.
We already talked about it, so I don't need to rehash it, but I was just giving my thoughts on Zen, was talking about how when we first talked about it a couple of weeks ago, we were both really, you were kind of learning about it for the first time. And I want to know kind of, first off, how your view of it has maybe changed or anything over the last couple of weeks. First off, let's just talk about your impression of it as somebody who's been in Hex really since like the beginning.
Well, I think the whole bot thing really screwed with my head. I was like, I didn't even think about it as we were talking. You and I were talking about it, learning about it, and I didn't foresee. I guess when something's given away, people are always going to take advantage of it. I did not think about the validators doing their own transactions and essentially mining it for free. That never crossed my mind. And I don't think that it was really designed to pump in price. So there's a lot of I haven't read the white paper. That's my own fault. I haven't done a lot of that stuff. So my opinion is that it's gone to zero. The idea is to keep mining it, minting it for free, not buying it. Please don't put your money into it, for God's sakes. I don't think anybody should be doing that at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's going to, for 8,000 days, I think it's going to continue to have this mint phase, right? Am I right there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Maybe
I forget how long the actual mint phase is.
It's like 8 years. I believe.
Yeah.
So not 8,000 days, but
yeah. About a little under 3,000 days. Yeah.
So I'm not sure the game theory. I'm not sure. I just haven't really cared enough. I don't think I just don't see any price potential for it. And there's going to be a ton of coins out there. So we'll see. Like I just don't. But I'm sure what you were talking about is the maybe the infighting between the Hexicans and the Zen folks,
the Zenians, the Xena warrior princesses,
Zenites, whatever.
Yeah. Xenophobes.
So I will give you my take on that. When the Bitcoin folks when Hex came out and the Bitcoin people said it's a scam, they probably said that about everything, and they were right 97% of the time. So they're just used to it. I don't know that they have anything really against Hex. Maybe they didn't like Richard because he used to be a Bitcoin maxi. So there's that extra, big FU to him. But I think the Hexicans learned along the way that to get a good project, it takes something pretty special, and a community that's pretty special. I also think they felt a little deceived by Jack. He kind of showed up into the community, started befriending people, was on a live stream with Richard, never once brought up this coin that he was about to do. And damn well he had it in his plans. You don't just come up with something in 3 weeks and launch it. It's not. So I feel that there was a little bit of betrayal, maybe,
Mm,
um, in that sense. And that's why there are people that are very angry about the way he did it, because he did befriend a lot of the Hex community. They thought, hey, here's this pretty cool, smart guy who's now part of our community, and then come to find out that he's going to launch something else on his own. And I think that's where a lot of the angst comes from. So them saying that this is a scam, um, you did make a comment on one of your videos that say, well, of course they're going to say that to pump their bags, but I think once you realize what Hex is and how truly special it is, it's not about pumping their own bags, though. It's about trying to get people into the right thing that we know is not going to wreck them. I
yeah.
think there's more that than the selfishness of saying, well, yeah, I just want to pump my own bags. So, that's kind of where I stand on it. I just feel that there was a little bit of betrayal, and I think he did it kind of the wrong way. If he had come in and said, hey, I really like what you guys are doing here. By the way, I'm going to launch something too. But he didn't come out and say that ever until it was after the fact. And,
Yeah.
I think that possibly could have been done a little bit better. That's all.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Yeah. And I definitely do get your point of view. I think what helps with the way that you're describing it is you're being really diplomatic and thoughtful in your response to it. Well, I guess
I've
when
got
I,
nothing. Yeah, I have no reason to be anything other than that. That's
yeah,
kind of how I handle, even on Twitter. I'm not one of those people to jump into a fight and get pick sides, and I stay away from that nonsense. You know that. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. We've worked together before. I'm not one to do stuff like that. It doesn't do anybody any good. So sorry I cut you off there, but that's just
no, just I think like the tendency for me to say some of that stuff in the videos that I made was more in response to the people that are being way more abrasive about it. And just, if you like you and I talked about this, if you hate it so much, or you think that it is going to wreck people, or you don't want people to get into it, why would you be covering it day in and
oh, I
day
know.
out? And I'm sure people are saying that. I'm sure other Hex people that have better intentions are saying that. When
Yeah.
you're tweeting about it incessantly every day, and you're making videos on it, like what I think about Zen crypto now, I changed my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you covering it? Obviously, your intent is more to get clicks, which, hey, I respect that. I mean, I do that too. I think everybody wants to do that, but don't say out of one side of your mouth that you don't want people getting into the wrong thing, and then you're covering it constantly.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
know.
mean? Yeah.
Yep. It's a terrible model to try and keep people away from it, because there are degenerates out there that no matter what you say about it, how bad it is, they're going to go look at it. It's going to
Mhm.
get eyes on it. If you don't want people to get into things like that, you just don't talk about it.
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
that's the best way. If it's not coming from you, then you can honestly say, "I never said about it on stream."
Right.
I, I'll flat out say I don't recommend anybody spend money. If you want to mint, whatever, do whatever you want to do. The choice is ultimately yours. Um, but I wouldn't go on an exchange and buy it right now at this point, because you're going to have several years of sell pressure from people that are minting it for free and going to take advantage of that. They're going to pull as much liquidity out as they can. So
I think what you're saying right there is what's really missing. And some of the people, the people that are frustrated by some of the people in the Hex community that think that it's cult like and stuff like that, or the people that are acting cult like, are the ones that are, again, not approaching it with this like kind of diplomatic nature like you are. Like you just said right there, hey, I mean, and I agree with you. I don't think anybody should be flat out buying it on the market right now. It just, to me, I don't get that. But you just said, if you want to mint some for a gas fee here and there, okay. Well, there are people that, you know, that is so damaging. You can't be saying things like that. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I mean, we talk about like all the censorship battles and stuff like that we have throughout the world right now, and just some of the No, it's what it is. The censorship battles. I mean, it's crazy what we're seeing right now. People being silenced for not agreeing with the masses. And it's funny to me because the people that are acting this way are in crypto. Like they're not woke. You know what I mean? Like they're not of the subculture that you would think would be silencing people, and some of them are acting like that. This is not the majority, but some of them are acting that way. Is it like you can't talk about it? And it's like, okay, well, what's all this free speech and everything that you guys were talking about before?
Yep. No, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of it. And I have never acted like Zen was, on the level of Hex or anything like that. I, would obviously rather own Hex. I think that there's just in general, like I said at the beginning of this, there's a lot of just people that are down and stuff because we are in the midst of a bear market. A coin like this launches, and now we have another one actually, which has no relation to these products at all. But I don't know if you've heard about Aptos, which I don't want to get into too much.
Nope.
You don't know anything about it? It doesn't seem like something you would know anything about. And I mean that as a compliment. Yeah, so I won't get too far into it, but I was doing a lot of reading on it today. It's actually a couple of guys who were with Facebook and Meta that were working on that Libra token that they were going to make a few years ago. And this is their new L1 blockchain. That is like the newest, fastest one. And 160,000 transactions per second. And it reminds me a lot of Solana because it's a lot of big money. It's a huge venture capitalist, big business, new L1. And it's going to be interesting. I guess that whenever it was released on October the 17th, they hadn't released like any of the tokenomics of it. Nobody even really knew much about the coin. So it kind of plummeted right away. Rebounded a little bit. I guess it's on all the exchanges now. It's already like in the top 60 or so on CoinMarketCap. I don't know. To me, it just screams, again, kind of Solana 2.0, which, I mean, I guess that would be great for some people because that means mad gains for a little while, but definitely not something I would be interested in right now. So
does that mean they can shut it off at will?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just, when you see I don't want to say the wrong kind of people, but this kind of old money, the venture capitalist type things like this in crypto, you do tend to get a little bit nervous about whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I would stay away because, they're all about self-custody is bad. You should give us custody.
Right.
And when I hear that, I run as far away as I can.
Yeah.
Just from previous lessons learned and not personally, because I've not been involved with any of those Luna, Celsius, any of those things. But I saw a lot of people that got extremely hurt financially by them. And until something's proven otherwise, I would, stay away from the venture capitalist type because they do not have your best interest in mind.
The interesting thing about it to me also is like, how many L1s are we going to get here? You know what I mean? Like how many times, already it's like the next Ethereum killer. And it's like, no, I don't think so.
Horizontal scaling is not about killing it, I don't think.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what people say. That's
but the Pulse chain intention was never to kill Ethereum. It was to take some of the load off to give people usable coins again,
Right.
So,
right. Well, another beautiful segue there by you, because we are going to talk a little bit about Pulse Chain and the updates and or lack thereof with it right now. Richard Hart had a pretty nice lengthy stream with Ivan on Tech. I believe it was last week. And I think maybe we should kind of start there, So, most people that are listening to us, hearing us talk about this have probably already heard, know what Hex is, know what Pulse Chain is or whatever. If you don't, it's basically the new fork of Ethereum that Richard Hart, the creator of Hex, has been in the midst of building now for a while.
A long time.
Yeah, we thought it would be out way earlier this year. It's still not. Now it's not looking like 2022. But so there's a lot of interesting stuff. And again, going back, I hate to continue to talk about the frustration, but it seems like there's a lot of frustration with some people and some more kind of reframing of what Pulse Chain is about to be. A lot of people thought that it would get to market before ETH 2.0, which I have a point about in a minute. But before we do that, I want to ask you about this interview that Richard had on Ivan Tech. What were your kind of thoughts on it, and what kind of good nuggets were there in that interview?
Well, I think because we are now forking ETH 2.0 or ETH, it's not 2.0 anymore. It's just Ethereum. There's a lot of good that can come out of that. I think we're going to get all the updates. I think once sharding actually happens, we'll get that. ZK rollups will happen. So any update that happens from the Ethereum developers, we will be able to easily roll out right onto to Pulse Chain with no problems. I also think they were having such a hard time with BNB, the Binance chain, that had so many bugs, and I think people were just truly unaware of how buggy that software really is. I had heard rumors before of validators not doing their job, and the chain would pause constantly, and I just think there were so many problems. So I don't have a problem with the whole situation of now we're forking ETH 2.0. I think it's probably the wiser move. I do think Richard probably will eat a little bit of crow for saying we were going to beat it to launch and a lot of things. But you have to kind of take a step back and say, when Hex was being designed, it literally took over 2 years to get that thing to market and get launched. So for me and for many of the people in Hex then, it is what it is. And I understand when he says software is hard, it is to get it right. And now I think it will only make it faster to market. There is probably less to do. Now, I do know they want to make some tweaks. They still want to make it faster than Ethereum. I don't know that the block size will be able to be 3 seconds like it would have been on the other one. And I also know that the validators are no longer a thing. The people that had bought some computer hardware to run their own validator node, that's not going to happen anymore, I don't think. Now, there will be validators with Ethereum, just like, but the whole setup is a little bit different.
Right.
To answer your question, I didn't hear too many nuggets. Other than that, it was mostly a lot of the other stuff we've heard before. I don't know. Did you pick anything out that really surprised you that they talked about that you were kind of?
I didn't watch it. That's why.
Okay.
That's why I deferred to you now. I think I saw like little blurbs of it, but I kind of just went and listened to what other people had to say about it that they picked out. But what the one thing I wanted to say about the ETH 2.0 thing is I think over time people have misconstrued. Maybe it doesn't matter, but like at what point ETH 2.0 is ETH 2.0? Because right now the merge has happened. This technically isn't ETH 2.0. It was supposed to be after all these other steps happen. Like you said, the sharding, and literally they have a whole weird plan: the merge, the surge, the splurge. There's literally all these other steps. So really this is not ETH 2.0 in its final form. So that's one thing.
No.
I don't think that Richard has to feel, unless he always was insinuating that he just meant the merge, I don't know that he has to feel too bad that he didn't beat ETH 2.0 to the market necessarily. But again, most people thought Pulse Chain would have been out by now. So I think
we did. But again, I think it all goes back to the amount of buggy software that they were working with. And the devs were having such a hard time to fix all that stuff, as we have spoken about many times. Richard didn't want to launch something that was half-assed, for fear of the constant, ridicule and scammer, all this. You know what I'm talking about. You had to launch a good solid product, and the eyes would have been on it with magnifying glasses had something come out that wasn't in good shape. You know, the Binance chain could still be running the same way. They fixed most of the bugs, but if there were a couple, he's the one that is the scammer, you know?
Right,
So
right.
I'm content waiting. I know the time of sacrifice that we made, the values that we got for that dollar is still way higher than what it's at now.
Right.
So, as far as I'm concerned, it was a good investment at the time, and I'm content on getting a good solid product. I, I,
Yeah. And I do agree with you. I understand, it goes back to when you had your little reboot issue there. I was talking about the frustration of people with Zen and like the Hex community and stuff. And I think something like that comes from when you are maybe like over leveraged in something to where you feel like you have to defend it to no end. And I think with some of the people that are getting upset about Pulse, like we've talked about before,
Mhm.
probably just sacrificed way more than they were willing to be without for this
Sure.
long. And that's why they still feel this way. Now, yeah, I get it. I mean, it's been over a year for the actual Pulse sacrifice. So, yeah, I mean, if it were me, I definitely would have expected that you'd be getting that back by now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But sometimes I think people do forget that it is called a sacrifice.
that's
And
right.
I know for myself that I mean, yeah, I do still maybe incorrectly expect that I'm getting something for that. But it was in about like, if I never see that again, it won't really impact my life. That's what people should have treated it like.
Yep, I agree. We have to get out the definition for some folks, though, of sacrifice. And, yes, of course, we expect something. But the definition of sacrifice was you sacrificed for the freedom of speech, for freedom of movement, those type of things. That's what it was for. And by the way, you're going to get some points. So I know it's a slippery slope, especially the wording on it, the way it was done. Obviously, that was for regulations purposes.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the reason people are upset is because they put in more than they should have,
Yeah.
hoping for a quick return by now. And you know what? Those are the ones that are going to sell when this thing launches because they
Yeah.
are now short on money.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm kind of glad. I think it's kind of funny. I hope they do get out as quickly as possible.
Right.
And that way we can see a better trajectory up whenever this thing decides to run. So,
I
and I
think a
really
lot of
don't
people.
think we're too far away from launch. I still don't.
Okay.
I mean, we could launch by the end of the year. I know there's going to be a testnet V3 will be
Right.
launched,
Right.
but because we're forking Ethereum, something that is they've got the bugs worked out of it, it's clearly working well. The developers are on it, and I think it will actually speed it up rather than if they had continued on the path they were on, we might not have seen it until third quarter next year.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, that is definitely good news. Yeah, and that's something that I did forget to mention is we are actually going to see a V3 of the test net. And that wasn't a thing before. I mean, that was recent news, correct?
there was mention of it at one
Oh, okay.
point,
All right.
but he still confirmed that there will be a V3. Why not make it right so we can bang on it and try and break it?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think a lot of what this is people that are a lot of people have their time horizons messed up in crypto. And we've talked about this theme before, but I think it is the fact that crypto is so volatile. And yes, that does sometimes mean that you can do, frankly, in a vacuum, make what it would normally be a dumb decision and end
mm,
up benefiting big time out of it because crypto can be that way. But it works both ways. You can also look like a complete fool and lose tons of money. Um, but I think people think that like overnight rich scenario is something that's more common than like they don't realize that how that kind of thing happens in crypto. So they come to crypto expecting this really, really short time horizon. And I mean really, really short. And that's what's so
yeah,
crazy is you can make the kind of gains in crypto that would take you 20 plus years or
right,
forever, like never in traditional finance. So
sure,
people can't eat. Then it's just like a chicken and an egg thing because they know that and they think it should be 6 months. They don't understand that it could be, oh wow, 5 years,
Right.
or even 8.
Well, they see that one rare example of somebody that got in at the very bottom and got
Mhm.
out at the very top and made a fortune in that run up where you could throw a dart at something and make money on whatever it was. Um, and they think that's the way it is all the time, and it's just not the case.
Right. It's the equivalent with me used to be heavily into the sports betting community. Like you would see this used to piss me off so much, and it does with crypto, same thing. When some like influencer would tweet like, check out this 8 game parlay I hit. And it's like, you and I don't want to be guilty myself of like censoring free speech, but it's like I was gonna say something I hate, but like you're harming people so much by saying stuff like that. But I am Darwinian, I think, in nature. And it's like, all right, if some dumbass wants to see that and go think that you can have success betting 8 game parlays, then he probably deserves to get what's coming to him. Like
Yep,
it's just,
exactly.
and you see, yeah, you do see it in crypto too. You see somebody who like bought one of the meme coins at the bottom, and had
Yeah.
all kinds of success.
Yep, it happens. I mean, it will continue to happen, and those type of people, they're degenerate usually, that have that mentality. They don't have any kind of long term goals set up. They want it now. They want it fast, and usually they're the ones that end up the most wrecked. So
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a lot of really negative stuff here because that's objectively kind of how most of it looks. But
mm,
to give kind of a positive spin as we wind down here, Ewok, what are let's focus on somebody who might be stumbling across this or other crypto content right now that is new to crypto, which probably isn't going to be very many people because they're not going to come to the market at this kind of time. But what is there to be positive about? I mean, like if you're first getting into this and you're really starting off like on the ground floor here with where these prices could be, what are some positive spins that you could put on the market right now, or what would you tell like a new investor right now?
um, well, as you know, I'm quite the Hex fan,
Really?
fanatic, whatever you want to call it. I did forget when you asked about nuggets. So
Hmm.
he kind of mentioned that, and he can't really say with um, certainty that about any price kind of calls for the better terms. Anyway, he can't
Mhm.
make forward looking statements against price either, nor should he speak about it. But he did kind of hint around that he thinks Hex probably did bottom.
Oh, I think he
Uh,
flat out said it. I think
um,
maybe not on a stream, not on a
no,
stream. I heard from somebody else, but maybe
it,
that's hearsay.
he might have mentioned it more on Hexologist stream than
Hmm.
he did on Ivan's, just because it was more just the community. Um, but as a positive thing, I think the one of the better investments that you can get yourself into is something like Hex, where there's a lot of positives to it. There are no middlemen. The code is the code. You're on about a 95% drop in price. Many people seem to think it's bottomed or damn close. Um, I don't know how many better signs you can get. There's a documentary coming out. I don't know if we have you talked about that at all. The documentary that is being released, they're adding a 40-piece orchestra. They were just doing the
Oh
score
yeah,
last week. So it's almost complete. Hopefully we see it on Netflix or whatever gets the most eyes on it.
I am looking forward
But
to that. The highest of stakes, correct?
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
highest of
yeah.
stakes.
Which
It's
would
gonna
be
be
interesting.
interesting. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be the Richard show. I really don't.
Right,
There's a lot of, from what I understand, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. There's a lot of you make your own decision. But this is what's happening in this community anyway. It's pretty cool. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be neat, and just excited to see something with that type of quality put out. It should be. it should be quite interesting. So
I think it's good for
that's
crypto. I honestly, not to interrupt you, I think it's good for crypto. I don't think it's even, I know you weren't saying this. I don't think it's even just good for Hex. I think it's good for crypto because, it's another, if it is on something like a Netflix or really any prominent-ish streaming platform,
sure.
I think it'd be really interesting to have something like that out there because there's just not many documentaries and things to look at for crypto that aren't like on YouTube. There's that The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin, about a couple of guys in Pittsburgh way back at the beginning, which is a great documentary, but that's just like something you look up on YouTube. I think it'd be great to have like a, again, a prominent streaming site having something like that on there.
Yeah. And don't forget these guys that made this, they have 5 Emmys. So it's not a rinky-dink operation. They know what they're doing. They've had success before. So I'm really excited to see the final product. And when you look at it that way, I just think there's a lot of positivity that's about to happen. If we can just hang in there. We do talk a lot about in the bear markets. There's a lot of negativity sentiment-wise across the board. So yes, you got to kind of keep it positive and realize where we're at in this cycle and know that we're getting close. I think that's one of the most positive things that you can have. And if you don't like what's happening, go build something, do something. If you can, use your talents to make the world a better place. There's just or work and save money and buy crypto.
Whatever it is.
Now's the best time. Again, for those people that, like I said, they degened in at the wrong time. Now's when you can make it right. So there is a lot of positive there. It's gonna get good here soon. So I just hang in there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's a key thing that we've been talking about too is, don't just sit on your hands waiting for the market to come back or whine and cry and everything. Definitely be doing something else, whatever it is to drum up extra dry powder. Ideally, it's something that you kind of like to do. Maybe it won't be for a little while and you just have to kind of trudge through it. But, it's that delayed gratification and working hard in the present for a better future, and I know you and I are both really driven by that. But yeah, I think there are a lot of positives. And, while I think Hex and Pulse Chain are two of the biggest opportunities coming out of this bear market, there are going to be other ones, and I would say that to a newer investor as well. Like go out, learn how to get into crypto safely, understand like Ewok was just talking about, like the values of DeFi and no middlemen, kind of being your own bank. I think you should also be certainly educated on exchanges and, you may need to use them here and there, obviously. But don't necessarily make them a part of your, you don't want stuff sitting on there. You don't want stuff yielding on there because you really don't even own it. So, but understand those things, know where to buy your favorite coins and have a couple of wallets, that how to access and only how to access. But yeah, this is the time. I mean, even if you're buying right now today and you take a 50% haircut from where you are, you guys realize like how many people are already more than 50% down. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Substantially. So,
and in Hex terms, a 50% haircut is what, 3 cents to a cent and a half?
Not even a penny and a half. Yeah. I mean, yeah, right.
There's a lot of upside. There's a lot of upside, guys. So
yeah. So even if you have that short-term hurt, which you better get used to in crypto, you're gonna have that. Like you're not gonna buy it and it starts going up the next day. It's gonna be.
It never works that way.
No. I mean, be prepared. Although I did trade Pulse Doge pretty well yesterday, though.
Good for you.
A banner day and went up into the mid 7s yesterday, and I got a little out. And I saw last I looked, it was down 25% today. So
good job.
Yeah, really interesting stuff there.
I did hear they're releasing a Pulse Doge Bitcoin.
Pulse Bitcoin.
Pulse Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Not sure how that'll be released, but it will probably be based on the Pulse Doge that you have.
I think it might be. So maybe I'm not going to get any anymore because I keep trading.
If you dumped it all, then you might not. But just free coins are free coins, right?
Yeah, as long as they're safe, which I do believe it's the same person or people behind this.
I believe so.
Yeah, the white paper is out. I saw Travon talking about it today. So his streams have been, speaking about the Zen Hex stuff, his has been
Oh,
kind
I'm
of
sure.
interesting lately.
I've seen a
Um,
few here and there, little bits and pieces, and Trevon
he
likes
makes
to
me
stir the
laugh.
pot. He does. He's funny.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a funny guy. But yeah, so some positive notes to let off on. We plan to be back here next week talking about the crypto world. I think as we hurl closer to these next key dates, of which there are many, but the next ones are November 1st and 2nd for the FOMC meeting. We'll see kind of where we go. Ewok is, you heard it here, folks. He's rooted in it. He's guaranteeing a 50-point increase. I'm going to go with 75. So we'll see. Maybe we'll bet a couple of shekels on that off the air. But Ewok, anything else you want to leave everybody with and tell them where they can find you again?
no, other than that, yeah, Crypto Ewok, both YouTube, Twitter, subscribe. Subscribe to both of us on the channel. Broke Boy's got some really good videos. He puts out a couple a week. Give you a little shout out there. I know you're working hard. You've got videos made and releasing a couple a week about how to save money, how to get ahead. There's a lot of good points, a lot of good stuff. You know, you don't have to follow all of it, but hell, even if one or two of his videos give you an idea or two, you're further ahead than you were before. So give him a watch. There's some really good stuff out there. So
I appreciate that. And you know what's funny, because I was thinking about this today, is I'm noticing like the more, and I understand it. If you're going to put crypto in your name as a YouTube channel, people are going to, they're looking for crypto. But again, I try to tie in the minimalism stuff and how to draw up extra dry powder on the side. And I noticed that like some of the minimalism stuff gets this. I think people are so misdirected, gets no views in relation to the crypto stuff. Like it's just, and to me, it's backwards because it's like you should understand. Yeah, like you should understand these basic responsible with money concepts. Now, I understand that some of the stuff I'm saying may be extreme for some people, which I think is kind of insane. But it's like, if you don't have this side of the bed made, why are you even investing in crypto? I mean, I don't know. I guess I feel like, it's not necessarily for people that are already at a certain point of wealth, although some of the things can certainly be helpful. But if you're not where you want to be at, bottom line, I think there's useful stuff in there. And it baffles me that people don't seem more interested in the minimalism stuff. And I mean like financial minimalism, but I'm not going to stop making them. I mean, I think it's really important. And, it's kind of a good bridge to getting into this asset class. So,
well, I think there's good value to it. And I think when you do come across the right people, they will go back and watch those. So it is good to have them there. And yes, don't stop. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good thing. So
don't stop believing. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Ewok. And you can find me on YouTube at Broke Boy BOI Crypto. Same on Twitter as well. That is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Creative Crypto Podcast, which you can also find on Twitter at Creative Crypto. We will see you all next week. Have a good one, everybody.